This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, this is Alex Butler from RealTech. We'll be getting started in a few minutes. We'll give everyone a couple more minutes to join in, so just bear with us before we get going. Hi everyone, this is Alex Butler from RealTech. I wanted to thank everyone for taking some time out of your day to join us for our first webinar of 2019 on some tips that RealTech has learned over the course of the past several years regarding migrations and specifically around SAP HANA. So I'm Alex Butler. I'll be the moderator for today. I'm the Vice President of Sales for RealTech. With me, I have our esteemed colleague, Jan Beyen, who is an SAP industry veteran. I would say Jan has 20 plus years experience in the SAP industry. I won't age him too well, but I'll say that he has seen a thing or two in his day, and you'll probably, hopefully, learn a thing or two today. Jan is also SAP migration certified, so we're going to be talking about all of the benefits and things to consider when moving to HANA or S4 HANA. So as of now, I'll hand things over to Jan, and we will go ahead and get started.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm at the beginnings of a cold, so if my voice sounds a little bit raspy, I'm sorry. All right, let's get. There we go. Technology, it works. Perfect. So first, we're briefly going to talk about RealTech. You know, who we are, what we do. Then, kind of an overview of SAP HANA, the development of the technology, 10 tips. Some of them you might be like, yeah, that's obvious, but it might be obvious to you, but very often it is not so obvious to lots of other people. So I might be preaching to the choir, so bear with me. So about RealTech, we were founded in 1994 in Waldorf, Germany, for SAP employees. They were basis consultants. They were part of the initial SAP implementation for Deutsche Post. They, after that, went live, and it was a Windows NT implementation. So that was when Windows was not really as big as it is today. Anyway, they opened or started RealTech literally across the street from the SAP mothership. And they have been there until 2 months ago. They recently moved to a new building. They moved to the US, or they opened the first office in the US in 1998. It was the same year that they went public on the German stock exchange. And it was, funny enough, also the year that they did the first OSDB migration. SAP had developed the OSDB migration toolkit in '97. And asked RealTech to do the first production. And this has been one of the things that we're best known for in the marketplace. So besides the consulting side, the OSDB migrations, the upgrades, HANA, cloud migrations, all that good stuff, There's also a software side that is made by REALTECH, change management, transport management. This is not transport management as in trucks and stuff like that, but SAP transports, synchronization management, and environmental assessment. It is known as the Guard, or you might have seen it under Smart Change. It is competitive with Charm, among other things. So why would you pick us? Well, we have lots and lots of experience. We only do one thing, and we do that very well. We are a SAP NetWeaver, or in the olden days, Basis technology consulting company. So all that good Basis stuff is what we do, and we do it very, very well. And we do it worldwide, both here in the US, in Germany, in Japan, in New Zealand. So we have a global presence. A little bit about SAP. If you're old, you will probably remember the mainframes and the beginnings of the PCs and the whole personal computer revolution. And then in the 90s, late 80s, you see client-server technology coming, the internet becoming prominent. Now we're in cloud and big data, and the next part is intelligent technologies and machine learning, big data, Internet of Things, blockchain, all that hot new stuff. Artificial intelligence. I'm about to date myself. I did AI stuff in college, and it had a lot of promise, and then it disappeared. So to me, it is exciting to see how that has progressed in the last 20 plus years. So how does SAP play with this? And where does it play? So before automation, you see basically a lot of repetitive tasks, that middle purplish thing. And over time, as you can see, more and more of the repetitive tasks are being replaced by automation, whether it's on the factory floor by robots, or processes are being automated with computers, with AI, and what have you. And so you will see that more and more things are taken over. Now, although there is this fear, and I think to a certain level that is true, is that people will be replaced by machines. On the other hand, it also opens up new jobs or new abilities. It's like, okay, the repetitive things are being done by a machine. Now this gives the worker to do, quote unquote, more high value or knowledge work. So it's not the end of us as workers, but education becomes more important. So intelligent enterprise, I will not go over this whole slide, but it's more to give you an idea, is that it replaces the focus of, like, in the olden days when it was batch jobs in the mainframe, to client server, to now intelligent machines, where things can run on any device, whether it's your iPad, your mobile device, your PC, what have you, and it will kind of look all the same. And so it will empower you to do your job basically on the fly anywhere in the world. That is both a good thing and a bad thing, in my humble opinion, because before you know it, you're basically hooked to your cell phone 24/7 doing work. But that's a different discussion. A short history of SAP HANA. It was introduced in 2011, and it basically has made a progression. And its latest iteration since 2015 is S4 HANA. We went from R3 to S4, so we went up a letter, and we went up a number. That's not coincidence. If you've seen Space Odyssey way back when, it's an homage to the computer hall, which was named after IBM. It's one letter up. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but just interesting aside. So SAP for HANA and S4 HANA basically opens up a whole new experience besides speed It's a new API. It gives you interfaces and ways to collect data through IoT. You can connect to blockchain. All that new technology is allowed to be integrated into S4 in ways that we couldn't do before. So this is where the excitement is. Now, to get there is not a simple, it's a rainy Sunday afternoon and we have nothing better to do. It is a process. So the process is basically forced upon us. SAP has decided that the deadline is January 1st, 2026. That might seem a long time from now, but, and here's the big but, is there are 40,000 other customers out there that need to do the same. And the last time I saw, only 2,800 out of the 40,000 plus had converted to HANA or S4 HANA. So there are basically still 40,000 companies to go. And that is a lot of work. So it is very important to get ahead of the curve. And because otherwise, if you wait till 2024, basically all consultants will be very, very busy, and you're basically the last in line. So get your ducks in a row and start doing what you need to do. I hope you don't hear this banging that is happening on the floor above me. So one of the things to do is do a proof of concept. Take REALTECH has a proof of concept. You can contact us and we can set that up. Make sure that you meet all the requirements. You cannot migrate from a 4.6c or a 3.1h system in one fair swoop to a HANA environment. So make sure that you're on Unicode. All that kind of stuff you need to do up front. And so that is important. Make sure that you get trained, and both on the HANA database, but also if Linux is new to you, make sure that you get trained. So these are important things that you should start thinking about now and start getting in motion. Tip number 2, build a business case. I don't know what your backgrounds are. This is not just technology. This is also important from a business perspective. Remember, the businesses has to pay for this. They have to see an ROI. They have to understand what the costs are, but they really, really want to know what the benefits are, and how quickly is this going to pay back, or is there a benefit? Is like, hey, if we use this new technology, we can develop these new businesses because we suddenly have access to this data that we've never had before, or we can ask questions of the data at a much higher speed that it is almost like Google. You ask Google a question, a tenth of a second later, the answer comes back, and then you're like, oh, let me adjust the question. And so you can ask more intelligent questions very, very quickly. And out of that, you might be able to develop new businesses or new services. And then there's a question, if you're on SAP already on an ECC system, am I doing a re-implementation, which is probably something the Big Four will tell you, or can I do a brownfield, i.e. can I do a conversion into the SAP HANA environment? All these things have to be worked out, and you will not be able to do this like overnight. So please take your time in building the case and sell it to the C-suite. Then on tip number 3, develop a roadmap. Because if you go to S4, it is very, very complex. It is not easy. It is, again, it will take some time, and you need some planning, and you have to get a budget in time around you. Then you have to make decisions. Am I going to the cloud? Am I staying on-prem? Or am I doing a hybrid solution? A hybrid solution being that some parts are in the cloud and other parts are on-prem. Or do I go to SAP Cloud, where SAP takes everything over? Do I fulfill all the requirements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? There's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration in developing this roadmap. Again, it is going to take you some time. So here are some of the requirements that you need to think about. You know, if you have a dual stack system, you have to split it. You can only go from an ABAP system into S4. You have to be on Unicode. If you are already on SAP HANA 1.0, you have to upgrade to SAP HANA 2.0. You know, all that stuff is of importance. If you're doing it inside on-prem, you have to, you know, start thinking about purchasing servers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so all these things are things that you have to start thinking about. Since you still have time, you know, a couple of years, you should start thinking about this now. By the way, it says 1709. There's a more recent version out. It's 1809, but that's on me. Because SAP HANA, the pricing is different. It is based on how much memory you consume. It becomes very, very important because SAP HANA licenses are not free. They are anything but inexpensive. So it becomes very important that you manage how much data you bring across. So if you are not doing any archiving currently, it becomes very important that you start archiving data. And this can be, again, a long project. This is, again, not something you do very, very quickly. Because, again, you have to get the business involved. And I know they will say, but I need all my sales data for the last 20 years. Well, that's not true. And if you show them the cost of doing that, they will probably back off. But again, it's going to take you time. Related with that is by archiving, you're shrinking the memory. You're also shrinking the servers, the Linux servers that you're going to run on. And you know, whether you run on an Intel server or an IBM Power 9 server, again, these are not inexpensive servers, especially if you get into, you know, the multiple terabyte memory servers that some companies are dealing with. Also consider when you are archiving, you're also shrinking your storage footprint. So you might actually be saving money there too, both on your current storage and in your future storage. Now, having said that, once you are live in your SAP environment, you have to, again, make sure that you have an archiving strategy in place that you can like leverage this tiered storage, because if your memory footprint starts to grow, SAP wants to get more money. And if you get beyond the borders, you know, what your memory can hold, you have to either buy bigger boxes, which are not cheap, or you have to scale out. So again, it becomes very important that you manage that memory. So start thinking about that. Create a project plan. This might be the most obvious thing in the world, but again, it is a way to communicate to the business of what you're doing and what is involved and who falls where. And you know, if you create a project plan with a timeline, the business has an understanding of, you know, go lives, resources needed, you know, that this is not a small endeavor. It is a way to communicate what is about to happen and what is involved. If you have been involved, if an organization has been involved in the, you know, not too long ago into an ECC implementation, they will probably remember that an SAP implementation is not a simple thing, and they might give you pushback. So again, this is a way to communicate what is involved and how you can align your business with what is coming in SAP HANA or SAP S/4HANA. Now, there are two ways you can do this. You can go from your current ECC and you can go directly into SAP for HANA, or you can say, like, you know, that is too risky. Let me do Suite on HANA first. And you know, both are totally valid. There might be constraints, or that there are things in S/4HANA that don't exist yet, and that makes you go to Suite on HANA. There could be all kinds of reasons why you do it in 2 steps instead of 1. The only thing I can tell you is that when you do it in two, you have two outages. You have to do testing twice. So, again, this is more of a business decision than a technical decision. The other thing is interfaces. If you're a small organization and you have 10, 20 interfaces, to banks and insurance companies and, ADP and, what have you, you can probably, do most things by hand. So you have to make sure that that the interfaces you currently have still work with the new version of SAP. There might be an incompatibility. So you have to check that and check with the vendors. When you're going through this process, please, 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 please test the connections. If you have thousands of connections, there are software products. REALTECH makes one called IM3 that can help you automate that, and it will show you the connections that are not working. And instead of having multiple people, probably basis people, go through each connection, you can have a software application manage that for you. It's the same with printers. Make sure that all your printers work. And the most important one is make sure your check printers work. People get very upset when they don't get their checks delivered. And make sure that if you run a warehouse, that your scanners work, that they still communicate with SAP, and that is still working, because you don't want your warehouse to stop, because if you're not shipping, you're not making money. So what is important to remember about S4, that it is not just an upgrade. It is a lot more than an upgrade. There's a whole bunch of new technologies, but even more importantly, there's a lot of new business processes, or updated, quote unquote, simplified business processes. And so the upgrade is one part, the migration of the data is one part, but there's a whole slew of activities that your finance and logistics people have to get involved in. And so again, don't think if you're an IT person, this is just IT. It is not. This impacts your business deeply. And so they have to be involved deeply, like it is an SAP implementation. So here are some of the people that you need. And as you can see, there is at the bottom, the second one from the left is the technical basis resource. And you see all those other people, those are not basis people. There's a UX lead, etc. But a lot of these people are functional people. And so you need to have your company and your resources, your subject matter experts within your organization involved, and you will most likely have to bring in a consulting company or multiple consulting companies to help you with this endeavor. Talking about consulting companies, get yourself a SAP certified partner. I cannot tell you how important that is. So don't get a bunch of consultants off the street, off DICE or some web application like that. Get a reputable organization. And when you have selected one, and again, you have to go through a process of vetting them. And then once they win the contract, make sure that you interview their staff, the people that will be part of your organization. Because, and the later you start doing this, all the good guys are gone. They are busy. So you might get the third string. Again, a reason to start doing it now. You will get the best people now, instead of the people that are like, okay, I just picked this up. I read the book last week, and that is not what you want. Remember, SAP is your system of record. This is your business, and you don't want to mess it up.
This is Alex. I just wanted to make a comment here. I know the original title of the webinar was 8 tips when moving to SAP HANA, but Jan got really excited and he couldn't stop. I think we have 10 tips that we're sharing, so you're actually getting 2 bonus tips. So
yes, two bonus tips. If Linux is new for your organization, get familiar, get training. One way is, go on the cloud, build yourself a box, It will take a credit card. You can charge it back. I think for $500, you can get a Linux box on AWS, and you can play around with it and get familiar with what it is to be on a Linux in a Linux environment. If you come out of a Unix environment, it will look very, very familiar, but there are some quirks to it that you have to just be aware of, and so get your hands dirty if you're if that's your thing, and for most of us technology people, that is what we enjoy doing. So get cracking. For SAP HANA, it is either SUSE or Red Hat. It used to be just SUSE, and 4 years ago, Red Hat also got certified as a valid operating system for SAP for HANA. A lot of organizations pick SUSE because SAP currently does all their development on SUSE, and so then it gets ported to Red Hat. So although they're both Linux and they're both open source and all that, there are differences, and they sometimes can bite you. So that's just a word. And certain organizations, they already have Red Hat, and so they're not going to go with SUSE and the other way around. But if you are new to the Linux environment at all, pick one. I don't have a preference, but for most organizations, because SAP develops on SUSE, they pick SUSE. And this one is dear to my heart, because this is probably the most important thing behind change management, is to test and test and test and test. Treat this like you're doing either a fresh implementation or treat it as if you're doing a major upgrade, because everything has changed from under you. And it is very, very, very important that you test all your functionality from beginning to end, that you do thorough integration testing, and make sure that you look at those border conditions that are right on the edge. Make sure that all works. I was talking to a client, and they were like, yeah, we've done all these upgrades over the years, and there was always this one thing that every time we forgot about it, and then it was after a month of go live, suddenly this one thing that nobody tested always fails, and then there's this whole panic, and it turns out we have to go in the IMG and change these two things and and then did you record it? No. And so it's things like that. Just make sure that you test thoroughly, that you don't get caught a month after go live with something that's stupid. The other one, and I've now said it at least once, is make sure you test the printing of your checks. It sounds silly, I know it is, but make sure that works. It is a simple thing to forget, and a lot of organizations get sloppy about it, because it's these are big projects, there's a lot of testing, and when you are part of the testing team as a subject matter expert, it also means that you have another real job to do. And so, this takes time out of your day, but don't forget those things. Please, please, please don't forget those things. So around testing, just one more, create a sandbox or do a POC with us, and do some initial testing, do a smoke test, make sure that things work, so you get a feel, so you can also with that explain to the business what will be involved, both from its complexity, or maybe it is very straightforward, who knows, maybe you only convert finance, and so it's okay, this is easy, this is containable, but it helps you understand what you know and what you don't know. And it gives you an idea, once the system is up, there is a moment, and that can be a couple of hours, that the subject matter experts basically have to go through to make sure that everything is actually working before it is handed over to the business. This gives you a moment, or moments if you do it multiple times, to understand what is involved, during that after go live smoke test and certification test. Okay. Now, because this is also a small advertising, REALTECH offers a free POC. You see here the link. This presentation will be available to you afterwards. Contact us. We will basically do a conversion for you, and you can kick the results around, see if it's working, what's what and what's not, and based on that you can start reporting to your business of, okay, what is this HANA thing for real? That is probably of importance and a part of your roadmap building and your business case building exercise. So we are certified migration consultants. That's what we do. We have a change management tool that is certified for S/4HANA and HANA. So have a look at that because you will have two landscapes running simultaneously, and if you're not using Charm or some other third-party tool, you can use our tool, the Guard, to keep that in sync instead of doing it with spreadsheets, and that can be very, very painful. I know from personal experience. Again, we can help you with archiving to shrink the amount of data that you're bringing over, and that will save your organization money now and in the future, which adds up to your ROI calculation. And then Basis is what we do. NetWeaver technology, that is what we do. We are experts in this. We've been doing this for over 20 years, and we're happy to help you.
Thank you, Jan. Hopefully everyone found that very informative. What we'd like to do right now is open up the line for any questions that anyone might have. Let me make sure that we are off mute, and I will unmute the line. Oh. And if there are any questions, feel free to speak up or submit your question in the chat window, and we'll address this. As Jan indicated, everyone's going to get a copy of the presentation today, and you'll get our contact information as well, so feel free to reach out to REALTECH. Are there any questions at this time? No? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to hopefully hearing from you in the future. Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you.